Practices is a really important section of your portfolio. It gets marked separately from everything else, just like the statement of intent does, and there's special marks just for your safe work practices section. So it's really important that you really take a lot of time in here. So one thing that I like my students to have is I like them to have a hierarchy of controls and a risk matrix. Okay, so I like everybody to have those in there, whether or not they're they have to have it. So here we've got our risk matrix. Here we've got a consequence of failure to comply and some actual governmental information, but the risk matrix is in here as well. Okay, and then yep, same thing and same thing. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to carry out our own risk assessment on our multimedia project. So what we need to do is we need to enact this risk matrix here, and we need to compare it, and then we need to choose what hierarchy of controls we're putting into there. So as an example, the risk of electrocution. So the likelihood of it happening is unlikely, but the consequence of that is catastrophic. So we look at our room, we look at everything around there, and then we write in our talk about what can happen as a result of this mistake. So we take our risk assessment, and this student has said that that's a high score of 10. So what we do to get that is we take a look at our risk matrix and we say it's unlikely to happen. So that hasn't happened yet, but could happen once every 10 years. And then we move across there to catastrophic death, we get a high 10, okay? So we put that in here in our score, and then we need to do our hazard reduction. So for this student, they talked about testing and tagged, and they talked about removing appliances that weren't tested and tagged. We talk about RSI from extended periods of work, so we've got moderate, we do our risk administrative controls and things of that nature. We talk about broken glass, so this was a particular one from his test where the bowl that the water was falling into fell off and was unsafe here. So we did a moderate and we managed to bring that down to a low, and so this was actually an unsafe event that happened. So it's good to actually put that sort of stuff in. So at one point in the term as well, the light started to fall off the roof. So we had a moderate score, and we managed to use administrative controls to do that sort of thing with that. So we've got trip hazards, so it's really comprehensive, this one. When we look at this students, we have safe work practices directly. So he's talked about cable management, cable checking, blue lighting, ergonomics, and then he's carried out a risk assessment sort of on its own, which is the way that you would normally see a risk assessment. So you can do it this way, and this is quite a good way to do it. So the likelihood, the risk score, and then putting in the controls. So remember, those controls are those ones here. So elimination being the most successful, PPE being the least successful. So you go through, you do your risk assessment, and then you do an evaluation on your safety if possible, please. Looking at this one here, same sort of thing, same sort of issue with an evaluation at the end of that. Looking at this next portfolio, so we've got once again the potential hazards, the risk assessment, doing the risk assessment with the rating, showing how you would do it, actually showing videos of you making something safe. So if it was unsafe before, it's safe now. That's great to put in. Yeah, and I think just making sure, so annotations are really good to have as well. So once again, always, anytime there's a picture somewhere, annotate it, show how you've made it safe. That's what you want to do. Very important section. Do not skimp on it, please.